Okay, so hello everyone. Today, this is the third of our artist talks, and we've got Sylvia Bahri joining us today. So thanks for joining us, Sylvia. And we're going to talk a lot about the work that Sylvia has in the show. And Sylvia's going to describe her process and talk about her work a lot in detail because we love the paintings that are on show from Sylvia. So first of all, Sylvia, if you'd like to introduce yourself and just give sort of a brief description of the work that's in the show.
Okay, thank you. I am a botanist and have done research on ecology and more precisely in ethnobotany. I have been interested in research on traditional management that combine production and conservation in tropical forest regions. I have been working mostly in Amazonia. First, I've been to Indonesia to see agroforestry systems that were
nice.
Discovered first more by scientists in Indonesia. And then I worked more in Amazonia. I've been living 20 years in Brazil, mostly 10 years in Amazonia, in Manaus, and 10 years in Brasilia. I have always worked on issues related to conservation with forest populations, whether to describe their relationship, their practices, their relationship with their environment, or to help them to defend their demand on demarcation of territories. So I've always worked in collaboration with anthropologists in governmental institutions or in different NGOs, mostly in research, but also in science divulgation, communication, and even in education. I began to paint more or less 10 years ago, just for hobby, just for me. If I can share my screen, I can show you, I can share? No. Yes, sorry.
That's okay.
Should be able to do it now.
I will show you maybe what I was doing at this time.
Oh, wow.
I was
Look at those.
more playing with shapes and colors. And then I began to introduce a little bit some elements of plants and other kind of, well, I sometimes stick with my botanical background. And then a friend of mine, Nurit, I was living in Brasilia. She works in an NGO, and she's writing books of divulgation, scientific divulgation. Mm-hmm. And she asked me to make the cover of a book she was writing about the biodiversity of Brazil. So I paint this one for this book. And then I have illustrated more subject about biodiversity, agrobiodiversity. This was for a prize about this question. And how do you call the rights, well, I don't know. Intellectual property rights. She was working with that, and she died, and a prize was created in memory. These were the studies I've done in order to paint the first one. And then I introduce every day more plants. This one was for a book about the 5 important staple food. So you can have cassava, rice, corn, wheat, and beans. And well, this one was exhibited in the first virtual gallery in ArtCan last 2 years ago, I think. And now it's in London in the Sharp exhibition.
Beautiful. They're so detailed. It's absolutely beautiful. Wow.
Yeah, that's when I began to illustrate more this kind of subject. And then last year, Nurit asked me, she wanted to create for one NGO a playing card, a kit of playing cards. So she asked me to illustrate these 4 protected areas of Brazil, 4 of them important, and their good point, their quality, and their problems. So I didn't show the cards, but I have I have a kit here. So that's why
I'd love to see them. I'd love to see them.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
gorgeous.
Yeah, I couldn't give it. Now this other painting was used for the French embassy in Brazil for the greeting cards in I think 2 years ago. It was about biodiversity. So I will show you the cards, but I have joined for presenting the painting that are in Breathing Out, the source of inspiration. This one is a national park. I have chosen to take a very specific one, the Monte Roraima Park. It's in the north of Brazil, in the south of Venezuela, because I've been there, so I know the landscape, and I use this kind of photography that I took from internet as references. So you can see this very special relief, which they call tepui, and a mosaic of vegetation, of forest. This region is called Grand Savanna because there is a very open vegetation called savanna, and these natural open grassland fields. Well, why national park? Because they are very essential for the conservation of course, plant, animals, and ecological processes, and then for the preservation of the climate. The conservation of the forest is it's a very important issue for the climate, because in Amazonia, where there's not a lot of industry, the higher level of greenhouses gases are produced by deforestation. So the forest can mitigate this. We know now that, and also because in Amazonia, we know that forest is very essential for the water cycle. The forest is necessary to produce the rain, and not only in the regional level, but not the local level, but the regional level. It influences the climate of all South America. There are a lot of very important research program, international research program going on from years in this region about this question. But in national parks, there are not any inhabitants. So we have taken the other examples. This one is a terra indígena, so indigenous territories. It's a category of protected area that is in the Constitution of Brazil. Every tribe has the right to have their own land. It's not the case, but by the right, they would have the right.
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. So for this one, it's not a specific one. I just wanted to paint some emblematic subjects. So of course the forest, and you can see the kind of picture that I've used as inspiration. And I think it's very interesting to say that these lands are very important in the protection of for the protection of the forest. I have added here a picture of 2 specific territory, indigenous reserve. This one, the first one in Xingu, in Amazon. The 2 of them are in Amazonia. And you can see that the border of the park, of the reserve, is really the border of the forest. Outside, just outside, it's agriculture, and here you can see also the fires. So they have not been created for conservation, they have been created for people, but in fact they also play this very, very important role for the protection of the forest. Well, this other category is Terra de Quilombola. It's also included in the constitution, in the Brazil constitution. The Quilombola, they are the descendants of Afro-Brazilian slaves who escaped from the slave plantation when they were existing in Brazil a little bit more than 100 years ago. So it's not so far. The community is called Quilombo. And there are many in the country. Some of them are in Amazonia. Here, it's not a very specific one, but yes, it is specific by the use of this very particular palm tree, which is called babaçu. And where in this region, the people are living, the economy, all the economy is based on the use, the process, and the commercialization of the products they made with the fruit of the palm tree.
What are they? What are the products that they make with it?
Oil, and also how do you call to make bread and fat?
Flour.
Yeah,
Flour.
products. Yeah. And well, they use also the fibers. In palm tree, in general, in Amazonia, everything is used, but the commercial product is more oil and this
Flour.
Edible. And then here it's the last one, Reserva Extrativista. They are more recent. They were a revendication. I think they have more or less 20 years ago, this category of reserve. They have been a revendication made by the rubber tapper movement in Brazil. The leader was, at this time, Chico Mendes, but he has been murdered. And it has been seen as a local Amazonian response to the massive and deforestation and destructive development. It was more than an ecological concept, it was a socio-economic concept. It was a kind of agrarian reform with a dimension of conservation. It's the same thing that the other ones. The land is owned by the government, but the population have the right to explore here, based in the sustainable use of the land. So harvesting, fishing, hunting, and extractivism. It's to say harvest of products without cutting the forest. So at the beginning, it was mostly for rubber exploration, but there are a lot of products. Here you have the rubber and the latex, but Brazil nut, this one is the Brazil nut. It's also in this kind of environment. Acai, a kind of palm tree that is very important to drink, and cocoa and a lot of other products. So here I have used this drawing. It was a drawing that I've been doing, that I have done for my research in agroforestry systems when I was doing my PhD. At this time, we were describing the vegetation, drawing a realistical profile in the vegetation to describe the structure. And here there were a rubber tree, acai, cocoa. So I used it as an inspiration when I paint this one also.
Oh, cool.
So I just add some other works because I was, at the same time I was painting these 4 paintings that are now in Breathing Out. I was painting this one also, Peki. Peki, it's a tree also. This is a special tree. And it is for the cover of a book. The book is sorry, the book is for, it's the thesis, the PhD research of a friend of mine also, working on the place of this particular species in the culture of this tribe in Amazonia. So I used her photography she gave me a lot of elements. And so nothing is really invented in this painting. Even the caiman here and the bird, they have a very good, a very big influence, not influence, but place in the mining, in the mythology of the people. They think that this species of tree is coming from, there is a story of the origin of the tree. So here also, it's an economical, very important plant, not only for economic, but also in the culture. And I will finish with that because I have painted this territory separated, and then I wanted to, because in the reality they are not. So I wanted to join them in the landscape, in a big painting where you can find them, the same Roraima Park, the Reserva Extrativista, the indigenous territory, the Quilombola. And I've put in the middle this tree because I think it was relevant, because it is, this particular species is very important for indigenous people, but also for Quilombola people. And this painting I have been exhibited in Vienna, has been sold in Vienna.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful. Yeah. So
with that, I would like maybe with to speak about this, my artistic process, because with these 2 ones, I would like to say that I just use for a lot of them, the previous one, I used my scientific background and a lot of references, as in science, in fact. And but I don't have the objective of producing academic scientific illustration. And when I can, and most of the time, I escape from the reality, and I'm still playing with shape and with colors I was doing. These 2 cards were for the kit of the playing cards, to illustrate the qualities of the territories. They're preserving biodiversity. They are preserving the forest as a big organism alive. But I think that it's very, I liking now, because it's very important to find in my art a medium to speak about ecology in Amazonia, and to give, but with much more freedom and emotion than I was having when I was writing scientific publications.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you so much for sharing that presentation. So as we've only got a couple of minutes left, would you be able to just let us know what you've got planned for next year?
Well, I am organizing myself. I think I have found here the way of joining really my background and my art. And I would like to go on really on that. And as I was telling you, now with the change of government in Brazil, it's very exciting. And I think we we will have more place to speak about not only Amazonia, because I think we heard about a lot about Amazonia, but in Brazil there are two others biomes which are very in danger, and we never speak about them. It's the Atlantic forest and the Cerrado, which is the more important part of Brazil, and they have very, very big deforestation, much more than Amazonia, and they can disappear. So I would like really to go on with that and to paint more, to speak more, but to engage more with my art. And I'm planning to go to Brazil next year, maybe. My husband is there now, and he'll go back maybe next year, and I will try to make more collaborations.
It's been really, really interesting, Sylvia. I love the transformation of your scientific background and your other side of your life into your art. I think that's really fascinating. It's very much what Hannah and I do. Mine's a lot about human rights and the environment, and Hannah's with her science and her interest in space and the environment. We've basically followed a very similar route. So it's lovely to see that we're all following a similar path and trying to use our art as a way of talking to more people about the things that matter to us most.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, I think it's the very interesting, but it has not been from the beginning. From the beginning, I think I have done a very break, not painting plants, but I think that's why I wanted to invite Nurit, because she was the one who gave me this opportunity, and I really like how we are working because we together, because we can have very good brainstorming about what we have in mind, each of us, and what we can and she gave me a lot of freedom. I like this process.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Well, thank you very much. Just as Breathing Out is on the 6th of January, we'll hopefully get together and create a session, as we were saying, for activists to maybe declare what they're planning to do in the year to come. But for the moment, I think we will round this up and say thank you ever so much. And yes, thank you for joining us. Hannah, would you like to say anything?
Thank you to have given me this opportunity also, because for me...
No, you're very welcome. Thank you ever so much for sharing us your work. It's been a really lovely chat. Yeah, so everyone who hasn't seen Breathing Out, head on over there to see Sylvia's work. But it's been lovely chatting to you, Sylvia. Thank you.